Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Number one, thank y'all for just clicking and watching, enjoying this with me. I'm doing comic book content because I like comic books. But besides all that, you know exactly what you came here for. You see the title down there. You see the title, you clicked on it. My very first comic book, part two. This is part two. If you haven't seen the first part to this, I'll leave the link in the description. You can click on that video. You might want to go watch it, check it out, see what's going on before we actually start into this video, because I'm literally going to start like right where that video left off right now. Because 8 years later after that, I found my next comic book. The thing was, man, in the midst of those 8 years, I started high school. I used to walk, I got a job, but at the same time, I realized what I wanted to do and I realized what my hobbies were. You know what I mean? I started doing stand-up comedy at the time. I also loved horror movies. Like, horror movies were my favorite thing of all time. Horror movies and stand-up comedy specials were things I would collect all the time. But I collected way more horror movies than anything else. Which, when I say collect, I mean collect. You know what I mean? Like, I would literally get off work on Friday with a check, go to the movie store, and spend hundreds on horror movies. That was my thing. Something I always loved doing. I love the horror movies. There was just something about them that really rose. But there was one movie though, one movie that scared the shit out of me. Okay, I can't even look into the camera and tell you how bad it scared the shit out of me. Okay, it's that one movie that terrified me, that to this day made it my favorite horror movie of all time. And I'm not saying it's the greatest horror movie to everybody, but to me, it's personally my favorite horror movie of all time. You know what I mean? I've been a big fan of it since I've seen it, and I haven't stopped watching it since. Okay, I watch it pretty much every year for Halloween, and I try to just keep it on the radar at all times because people don't really know how good this movie is. All right, I'm not talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'm not talking about the Poltergeist or the typical movies that people would sit here and say is their favorite horror movie of all time. I'm talking about 28 Days Later. Okay, this movie here. Come on, son. To me, greatest horror movie of all time. That's right. I got 3 copies. Don't hate. I got 3 copies. It's fine. Okay. Got the Blu-ray. Got the PSP copy. You know what I mean? For my PSP when I had one. Got the DVD. You know what I mean? It's a thing. Got the vinyl in the back. You know what I mean? With the cassette tape. It's a thing. You know what I mean? Okay. It's just here. It's me. I'm just being honest. Anyway, 28 Days Later became my favorite horror movie of all time at this time. And in the midst of all of this, me being a comic, me becoming a horror movie fan, me working, all this other stuff, I would typically just walk to town sometimes. I would just go around town, put my headphones on, and just walk across town. That's all I would do sometimes during the day. On my off days, I would just walk across town, see what new stores are opening in town, see what old stores are closing, etc., etc. Just absorb nature a little bit, clear my head a little bit. But I remember one day I walked into a corner of the town that I never really walked into. And at the end of this shopping center was a comic book store. The comic book store, and I was like, why not? You know what I mean? Why not? Let's just go in there and check it out real quick, you know? And I end up going in there and I walked out with this baby right here. I actually walked out with these two. 28 Days Later, the comic book series, the graphic novels. Now, I didn't know these even existed. I had no idea that this was even a thing. As big as a horror movie fan I was, as big as a 28 Days Later movie fan I was, at the time, I had no idea that this was a thing. 2009, I had no idea. I didn't know. I thought the movie was it. That's what I thought. Okay, there's nothing else to this movie but this movie. So I just gotta wait for the next one or whatever they're gonna do with it. I hope they make a next one. I found a comic book that talked about the movie. Now the thing is, I got the first 2 in store, but I had to order the other 4, which I did from the comic book store. So you know, it was a total of 6 graphic novels. 28 Days Later. And what it did was tell me more about my favorite character movie, which was Selena, which was Naomi Harris. She was crushing that role. And this story in the graphic novel that Boom Studios made follows her story and tells her story more. And it gives more about, not only her, but some other new characters that are introduced into the story. And I fucking loved it. I loved every bit of it. It was amazing. I couldn't even believe that I found something like that. I didn't even, because it just blew my mind that this even existed. Same with the previous book of Starship Troopers. But like I said, if you haven't watched that video, link is in the description. But I found this and I was like, wow. There's I can't believe there's even more of this, you know? And out of nowhere, I'm in the comic book store, diving in, looking for books, seeing what's new. Eventually, I find this 28 Days Later Aftermath. This is another graphic novel that I was like, whoa, 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 there's another one? What is this? Only to realize that 28 Days Later Aftermath is a bunch of short stories put together. So, what I'm going to do today is we're going to be talking about those. We're going to dive into those more because I'm super excited about this series. It didn't take me that long to read them because I was so excited about reading them. I don't really collect a lot of graphic novels unless it's really necessary. Mainly because this is a lot to read in a sitting. To me, this is a lot to read to me. I like to kind of read a single and then keep it moving. But in this emergency, you can call it, because I couldn't find any singles, the trade paperbacks worked perfect in this situation. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what happened. Reading 28 Days Later, man, this whole series is super dope because people have so many questions about this movie and the virus and what happened to the characters afterwards. These books tell you. All the graphic novels connect both movies together, from the 28 Days Later to the 28 Weeks Later. So you have all these stories that in the graphic novels explain and talk about, but they also bridge the two movies together. It was crazy because right after I got this, 28 Weeks Later dropped, which was insane, dude. I lost my mind. Granted, I wasn't able to go to the theaters to watch it, but the minute that it dropped on DVD, your boy was in. I was in there. Picking it up, watching it immediately. So what we're going to do through this video, I'm going to be telling y'all some more about the stories that's going on, and we're going to give y'all a whole timeline to pretty much get y'all prepared to watch 28 years later. I want to make sure that y'all are prepared with one of my favorite comic book series, just as much as one of my favorite horror movies of all time. So let's get into it. "28 Days Later Aftermath." This came out in 2007. This was released by Fox Atom Comics. Super dope comic book, but this book right here is a pretty essential piece to what happened in 28 Days Later. Like, a lot of questions are being answered throughout this book as far as where, how, when, and what created this virus. It really puts together a lot of little small pieces. It talks about certain elements that were added to this virus to make it even stronger and faster, and makes it change people within that certain amount of time. Like, it's done a lot. 28 Days Later Aftermath, this series really is 4 short stories that really takes different perspectives and shows as the virus grows and grows to take over this city. That the short stories are divided up into 4 stages. Stage 1 is development. Stage 1 follows 2 scientists named Clive and Warren. They talk about the virus and what this virus is needed for, what they're going to be using it for. It also talks about what they added to the virus to make it that much stronger, and it really creates a division between the scientists because they experiment on certain things. It's really dope. I'm not going to go too much into the details, but I don't want to ruin these stories for you, because I do recommend you read these stories yourself because they're super dope. Story 2 is Outbreak. Outbreak follows a family of 5. They just outside having a good old barbecue, hanging out, when all of a sudden this virus approaches them and it just takes over that whole park. It gets crazy. I recommend it. The artwork in that one is dope, but then that is followed by Stage 3, Decimatation. It is a story that follows a survivor named Hughes. He's pretty much like a soldier, pretty much you can say. This takes place like a month after Outbreak happens, and it's a dope story about him. He tells you what he's observed over the last month of just trying to survive through this fight between the outbreak and just how humans have become over time. This is what really gives you a lot of information about the virus, just stuff that he is observing of. It's really dope to see how they really give the information out slowly but intriguing enough for you to really read it and get it. I dig it a lot. But then the last story, Stage 4. Stage 4 is Quarantine. And this is the final story in the book, and it follows 2 children that found a refugee center, and they take cover in there, and they talk about their experience dealing with the virus and what they're worried about. And it really sets up the story that's coming to follow, which is 28 weeks later. Steve Niles really wrote great stories. He worked with a lot of great artists throughout this. I believe he worked with like 3 or 4 different artists. I'm going to place their names on here so you can check them out. But I definitely recommend, if you get a chance to read it or see it, do that. 28 Days Later comic book that was produced by Boom came out in 2009. This is a 24 single issue comic book and a 6-issue graphic novel. This is written by Michael Nelson and drawn by Alejandro Aragon. Very good artwork, super dope coloring. I love what they've done. This book though focuses more on Selena. Selena was one of the main characters in the original movie 28 Days Later. It follows her more and tells her more about her journey, which is interesting because Selena was one of the characters in 28 Days Later that we really didn't know about her past that much. We didn't know about her future plans that much. We didn't know what was really going on in her head. This comic book series, 28 Days Later, tells you a lot more about her. Lets you know what she did in her previous life, how she was in her previous life, and what happened to help her build this tough skin and character that she is portrayed in the movie. It's very interesting, and I love what she does in this book. This whole series follows Selena as she is recruited to join a team of journalists to go over to the back, because she escaped from the affected area, and now she's recruited to go back to the affected area to help them. And it's the journey that she goes on this time is even worse, because now she's like definitely having to take care of people. She's the only one that's had to encounter these things face on. It's very interesting to see how she maneuvers through this to protect the team of 5. At least she tries. I'm not gonna say nothing. I don't want to ruin too much. Okay, I don't want to ruin too much. And they go back over. There's little jokes here and now and then in the book. Nothing too crazy to really throw you off, but give you that subtleness of. There's a sense of humor here, which I really like. The quick one-liners or subtle observations that Selena makes throughout the book. And it's really dope, you know what I mean? And overall, 28 Days Later and 28 Days Later Aftermath, the comic books, really tell you a lot about the virus itself. And it lets you know how the virus reacts in certain things. And it's a virus, so people, and 28 Days Later, when that movie came out, people had so many questions, and these comic books were there to give the answers to that. And I really appreciated what they did with the books. Shout out to Boom Studios as well as Fox Atomic Studios, Fox Atomic Comics. Actually, they did a really good job, and I'm a fan. I'm a fan from the movie just as much as I am the comic book. So now, what we're gonna do now is what I'm gonna do is try to get y'all prepared to watch 28 years later. I'm trying to give you the tools that you need to be prepared to watch it. Okay, so I'm gonna let you know the order to watch and read these books and movies in, just to make sure that you can have time to go get these books as you do. You got plenty of time to go get them. Okay, you can watch the movies and get the books, read them in order, so you be prepared for what you're about to get into when it comes to 28 years later. Okay, you want to start with 28 Days Later Aftermath Story 1. You want to start there. Story 1 and the 28 Days Later Aftermath, that is development. It's going to tell you about the virus, where it came from, all that good stuff. You get somewhat of an understanding. Then you start watching 28 Days Later, the movie, the first one. You want to do that. Now, if you want to get technical here, you can do that. The next step in this could be pretty technical. If you want, the first 10 minutes of 28 Days Later, it takes place in a laboratory. Okay, the laboratory outbreak. You know that scene. After that scene goes off, read Story 2, 28 Days Later Aftermath. Again, Story 2, the outbreak. You want to read that. You start reading that, then go back to watching 28 Days Later, finish that, and then you go back to 28 Days Later Aftermath Decimation. Start reading that. That's Story 3, Stage 3, Story 3. You read that. You go from that to 28 Days Later, the Boom comic book. This is the one that follows Selena. You're going to find out about Selena's story. And it's going to give you some more ideas about the virus as it develops. And then you go from that back to 28 Days Later Aftermath to finish it up, Story 4, which is Quarantine. And then you dive right into 28 weeks later. That's what you want to do, people. Do all that in order. You'll be ready for 28 years later with all the information that they truly gave you out there. Because nobody really talked about the 28 Days Later Aftermath or the comic books when they came out. Nobody really heard about them. Nobody really knew them. But now is the opportunity to get them, read them, and prepare yourself. Because next year, 2025, a movie that every 28 years later fan been waiting on is coming out. I'm super excited. I'm gonna be in theaters this time. I missed both of them in theaters the last time, but this time, I'm there. I'm in the theaters. First night, second night, and third night. I'm there. Okay. That was literally the second series that got me into comic books, but that wasn't the one. As much as I love the 28 Days Later series, that wasn't the one that cemented me into comic books. And when I say I got into comic books on this next series, I mean it. Like, this was the one that made me, I tell you this was the one that literally had me traveling the country to get comic books. Yep. You guessed it. We're going to be talking about that in part 3. You know what I mean? So, like, comment, subscribe. Thank y'all for watching. Part 3 will be dropping relatively soon. Give me some time. I got this series I'm super excited about this because this series was the one that got me for sure into comic books forever. And I haven't let go of comic books since. This is a big one for me. All right. Like I said before, like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what was your first comic book that you ever got into. And let me know what you're collecting now. I'm curious. Thank y'all for watching, man. I'm out. Peace.